All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Blast from the Past. This one's even more blastier than the pastier than the Pringle episode I uploaded a little while ago, and I am sort of going through the archive of the interview TMPs that I had back in the day. And this MacSplicer podcast was recorded around early May of 2018, and it features my very good friend CommanderSnowflake, who eventually turned out to be my roommate after a while, and they were roommates. And yeah, this was a fun podcast. This was actually, I was listening to this. This was when I was like really deeply entrenched into the culture of the FGC. Like I was everything about fighting games, the community, the tournaments, all the shenanigans. I think this was when I was probably the most passionate about fighting games and the community. And it was kind of crazy listening to myself talk about the community in that light because of how, fast forward 5 years later, how I feel about the community now. So crazy how times changes. I still like the fighting game community just fine. I just don't really feel like I'm as passionate about the community aspect of it, and really the game aspect of it as well. But anyway, we were talking about how Commander Snowflake is seeing the fighting game community and fighting games from a different lens, because he came from first-person shooters and other genres of game. And it was a fun conversation. I remember having this conversation, and we were just talking back and forth as me being the guy who's really entrenched in everything FGC, everything fighting games, and him being sort of a sideline observer who eventually became more so of a participant. And I like this conversation. It was a fun one to have back then, and it was a fun one to listen to again 5 years later. But one thing that doesn't change is I ramble just as much. So anyway, ladies and gents, hopefully you enjoy this episode, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Are you ready? Are you nervous?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be,
okay.
I guess.
All right. No nerves,
right.
No problems.
I've been on podcasts before. I'm good.
Oh, really? I want to listen.
Yeah. Nothing that is on the internet, I'll say that.
Oh, well, how can you call that a podcast?
It used to be, but the guy, he got in trouble not with me, but with other people that he put on there. And he, talked shit after the fact. Anyway, his YouTube channel's gone now, so.
Oh. All right, we're good. So.
You want to count down?
No, we just fucking go into it, dude.
Oh.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take, a part of,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you want a countdown and then you pause for a second?
We don't do countdowns.
Welcome to the MacSplicer.
Here's the thing. This is probably going to go on a podcast. I'm just telling you. So I'm starting the podcast. All right. I have questions, but before I get to the questions, I want you to introduce yourself. Because I know who you are, but I want the people to know who you are. Who is Commander Snowflake?
Damn, interview? All right.
Well, it doesn't. No pressure. No pressure.
My top 3 strengths, words I would use to describe myself: determined, willful, leader.
Hell yeah. Okay. I like it. Good shit. Good shit.
Interview strats. So I'm Commander Snowflakes. I've had the Xbox Live gamer tag since 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. Mostly an FPS player. Recently got into fighting games. And my buddy Mac here is super into the FGC, etc. So we've had previous discussions on things in the FGC and ideas about the FGC and things that go on or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I'm not really involved in it. As he's stated in a previous podcast about me,
We'll get to that.
I'm not part of the FGC, but I know of them, and I've been around for quite a long time in that community, just not super dick deep in there.
Yeah.
FPS player, getting into the FGC, total Josie fanboy.
I have questions, but I don't really want to get to them just yet. Because
you keep saying that.
Yeah, because I kind of want to.
Some good questions.
Well, they're not that good, but they're not really. I kind of want to build them up first. So you already referenced Josie, which means you play Tekken. I know this.
Yeah.
Right.
And trying to get into Street Fighter, not really. 2D is not really my jam.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So what are your feelings on 2D fighting games?
The only thing. Okay, so a lot of people, I don't talk shit about 2D because I play 3D. I talk shit about 2D because I don't like what it does to my eyeballs when I play it. and this obviously I've only ever played like King of Fighters, Street Fighter, and then like Melty Blood with you. So what happens when you attack? When you hit something, there's like a stop frame. There's like a pause. So if somebody's doing a combo, it's like all these like jittery things that like happen to my eyeballs. Whereas like on like Soul Calibur and Tekken and stuff like that, it's like a smooth animation from the hit. They do a little bit, like you can still see like just a tiny bit of like frame droppage on the hit, but it's not like a direct. It's almost like a stop motion film with 2D, and I don't like that. I can't like my brain like does not like looking at that. I guess so. That's the only reason. Really.
That's an I've never heard that before. I didn't actually, and I didn't know that was the reason why. I thought you just didn't gravitate towards those games as much as.
No, you've seen me play Tekken. I do enjoy the 2D fighters, Akuma, Geese, Eliza. I like using them. I just don't like the style in which they are presented. Normally. Okay.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that reasoning for it. All right. So now I think I can get to, because now there's a basis, right? So now I'm going to get to the questions. But before that, you know,
here's a commercial break.
Yeah, we're sponsored by. No, kidding.
Amazon.com.
Listen, have you heard of Bits? No.
We love Bits.
We love Bits
Twitch.
Around here. So before that, how did we meet? We met on Tekken, right? Obviously, because that's the only thing I play on PC.
We met on rank matches.
Was it rank matches?
Yeah, because that's how I met a lot of my. I literally bought Tekken, and I was part of Caster Central with Altilla, Neo9, Moose Nipples.
That's a Discord for you people, by the way.
Yeah, Taste of Gaming. These are all people that play like Overwatch and FPSs. You know, Alt's currently playing Bloodborne, stuff like that. Yeah. So not part of the FGC, but Tekken 7 came out, and I was like, I haven't played a Tekken since Tag 2, and it feels like it's been a million years since I played. So I'm picking this one up. I don't care if it sucks. Like I like Tekken. I want to get into it. So I bought it, and I played it for about a month before I met really anybody online because I wasn't playing ranked. So I started off by playing Asuka, because she was my three main people in Tekken Tag 2 was Asuka, Steve, and I want to say Dragunov or Fang. Those were kind of like the toss-up.
I thought you said play Horang.
I played Hellring, but I only played Hellring if I played Steve, so like I didn't always feel like playing Steve.
Oh, okay.
So I liked playing him, but I didn't really know too much about him, etc. So, but I watched Eris play a lot, and so he played Dragunov, so I played Dragunov, and then he played Fang, and I played Fang. So that's avoiding the puddle for you guys probably know him.
Yeah, I'm sure they know.
So anyway, coming into Tekken, I was like, cool, I'm just going to pick up Asuka because she seems like the most counter and punish kind of thing. Take a block, punish really well kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
very
I'll
defensive.
do that. Right. Which is how I play Soul Calibur, which was the last game that I had played before any of the Tekkens. I played a lot of Soul Calibur, and it was one of those things like we would have local kind of things, like me and like 5 other friends would get together and play Soul Calibur 5 or 4 or like 3, whichever one we had, like for whatever console. And so, I had that play style, right? Block, punish in some way. So I didn't really know combos, and I really kind of wanted to learn some, so I learned a few with Asuka and just got straight into ranked. And then I got to Grandmaster with Asuka, and then I stopped playing for like another month and a half. And when I came back, I was playing Paul Phoenix, I think. And that's where I met you. I was doing Death Fist for days. I was just doing Death Fist again and again. And that was because Alt had finally picked up the game and actually started playing, and Moose was playing too. So we kind of had started to kind of start playing, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get better, so I went online, and I tried to meet people that like really beat the shit out of me, and like add them to my friends list and just like play them in player matches. That way I could learn stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do in FPS too. Like you gravitate towards the good players, and if you can get like a good player on your friends list, you play with them, watch their play style, see how they do it, and then kind of copy and make your own thing, right? That's how I see it anyway. Well,
that's actually interesting. Actually, now even before I get to my questions, I have another question, because in FPS, I don't know how that works. I'm not an FPS player. But in fighting games, I think the general thought, for most people, at least I think so, maybe not everybody, but for most people who are in fighting games, they see that there's a level in which you can learn, but for whether it's above you or below you, there's a level where like there's no point in playing that person because they're either too good where you don't learn anything, or they're not as good where it doesn't make sense.
I don't think that's possible. I think the better they are, like if I could play against like JDCR and Nee every day, that's what you do, you know? Like ultimately, you're going to learn the most from them. Even if you're getting your ass kicked, if you're just watching what's happening and you're like understanding it and you're not just like getting the shit beat out of you and like freaking out, you're like, "Oh my god, I can't do anything," but like thinking about what he's doing and then trying to counter that, you're going to become a way better player.
But don't you believe that you have to get to a certain level before you start thinking that way? Like you can't take somebody who
brand new, like no backdashing shit like that.
Well, I'm saying let's take you of July of last year and put him against JDCR of today. Do you think you would learn anything?
No, definitely not. Maybe I'm wrong on that. If you know the basics, I guess backdashing, throw breaking.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I think you have to get to a certain level before you can.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That's usually the general rules in fighting games.
Right.
Like,
yeah. But I don't think you have to be like Ginbu to play against him. I think like a fighter could play against him and still learn stuff.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I'm saying like there has to be there are levels. There are levels to this game, and I think you can't overreach and you can't undersell either, if that makes sense. Like like if I go play a bunch of, not to talk shit about like third Dan's online, but if I go play third Dan's and just body him, yeah, it might feel great for my ego. It was like I just have a 100 win streak. But I'm not learning anything. I'm not really, getting better. I was going to
bring up the fact that you're a usurper now vanquisher, and I'm only a grandmaster, which is like my top rank.
Well, those are
which
online
I don't play
rankings. I mean, those are online rankings. They don't mean anything, really.
Right. But we play against each other, and we find out new things against each other, too. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if, with your mentality of like, there has to be like a certain level, I feel like you should just like win 10 out of 10, you know what I mean?
Well, let's not get into the numbers, but I'm just actually funny that you bring that up because that also like a theme that I wanted to bring up later in the podcast, but much later. So, referring back to episode 35 or 36, whatever that was, 35. I mentioned you not by name, but as a buddy, and I didn't even forget like what the whole subject was. We talked about fighting games or whatever. We talked about mentality of fighting games. And I think actually the reference that I got was from somebody else, but then we started talking about it. So you weren't the example. You were just the other party that was having the discussion with me. But one of the themes was something that I'm not going to say I got triggered by it, but something that like I don't like to see in newcomers to fighting games is the mentality of, well, at least I didn't get perfected. I hate hearing that sentence.
Yeah.
I really don't like it because it's not, there's nothing wrong with getting perfected. I don't see, like, it's kind of like, in my point of view, it's the same as, when you're watching boxing or watching MMA, when somebody sees that like they're not going to win this fight, to just throw in the towel. Like I don't mind that, but like just because you go 12 rounds and you're declared the loser, but you won all 12 rounds, but you got fucking busted up and you didn't do anything. It doesn't. I don't think there's like a point in that. Where when you say at least I can perfect it, it's like, well, I guess I went the distance, but I didn't quit. I don't like that mentality. So it's like I rather you understand why you're getting perfected and then getting perfected, or understand why you can't go all 12 rounds and you have to throw in the towel, than having this mentality of
Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier today too. Having the mentality of getting the shit beat out of you and then repeating what you just did, no changes. That's what gets me. Mm-hmm. Is like, whenever somebody just wins, that they'll like continue doing the same things, but they don't change in a better way.
Yeah,
so they don't improve. Yeah, exactly. So it's like if it works, they just keep doing it, even though like it's just so like counterintuitive to being a better player. You know what I mean? So let's say with Josie, they get hit with like 4 down 4s, and like they don't ever block down, and they just do like hop kick, but that shit worked. So they just take the 4 and they're like, whatever, it was a wash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I hop kicked him. But it's like, I mean, yeah, you got a combo maybe, but we're talking about people that don't know combos too. So
yeah, that's true.
So it's like they didn't gain anything out of it except just like resetting essentially.
Yeah.
And then they don't use the brain power of like the mind game. And I talk about this a lot with FPS too. the mind game is half the game. It's like, am I going to do this soccer kick, or am I going to do like run up and just do like a 2? And with me and you, we get that mind game and we play that. So if you duck, I do down forward 2. You know what I mean? Because like that's what I was trying to bait you to like duck or whatever. But they're just like going to run up and fucking spam every button that they have. You know?
They're going to flowchart through multiple things that, or multiple, I guess, patterns that they go through, and then they'll keep recycling. But that, I mean, that's fine, and that's part of growing. I mean, everybody flowcharts to a certain extent, right? I mean, it's just how you evolve eventually.
Back to 1.
yeah, exactly. Like,
back to 1 demo man.
Yeah, I mean, like, your example is perfect. You're so used to it, right? Until somebody starts to show you that there's a hole in it. But the one thing that I didn't like is the mentality itself, where, like, I think it's very difficult to evolve mentally in anything, but fighting games particularly, mostly because I guess we actually got to bring this back. So, okay.
Yeah, it's the perfect thing.
Well, not just that. Like, the reason why, and this is, you mentioned this before, how I ramble and I never go back to the point again. I'm going to do this again here because I'm going to forget what I said. But, so we'll take it back. I'm going to take it back, and hopefully, just remind me. Hopefully we can come back to it.
Gotcha.
Fighting games. So the reason why I got into fighting games is because I have a competitive edge, and I'm sure you do too. You play FPS. That's a competitive nature or environment to be in, right? And the reason why I like fighting games so much is because I play sports, right? And the sports that I really like are baseball and basketball. And even though those are team sports, there's a one-on-one aspect to those sports. Whoever has the ball in basketball is usually the one that's making the play, whether you're going to pass or you're going to shoot, but you have a person right in front of you that's guarding you. It's a one-on-one environment, and I like that a lot. Same thing with baseball. There's a pitcher and there's a batter. And then there's going to be a winner. Obviously, you got people around you that are going to help you out, but it's a one-on-one thing.
Yeah, true. And
those were my 2 favorite aspects of those sports. So obviously, as I grow older, went to high school, college, did sports, and then after that, it's very tough to like, hey, let me just go find somebody to play baseball against. It doesn't work that way. So fighting games I was really gravitated to. Even though I played them when I was younger, I took a long hiatus and I came back. Blah blah. Everybody knows the story. So the reason why fighting games are so special to me is because you have that like that physical. I mean, not super physical, like, actual activities in sports, whatever. But, like, execution is, like, the physical side of fighting games, right? Where, like, you have to be able to execute. And then you have the mental aspect. When somebody seemingly has your number or doesn't have your number, or there's, like, how you just mentioned it, the mental game, there's something there. I can't really pinpoint it. I don't know why I like it as much. I'm sure you have the similar experience with first-person shooters. There's just something special about that keeps bringing me back, right? I like that mental edge. I like even if I lose or if I win, there's no draws, but even if there was a draw, I would constantly come back, right?
Yeah,
and
I feel you.
I think that mentality is really what...
it's really prevalent in FPS, I'll tell you that as well.
Yeah. So in fighting games, I feel at the top level, not even the top level, at the passionate level, at the people that fucking play Melty Blood. It's there. Like, I'm telling you, it's there. Like, there's a reason.
In the hallways of hotels,
in the hallways
of
hotels
everywhere.
Yeah,
all over the U.S.
Yeah, they're playing behind dumpsters all over, representing strong, and there's a reason for that, right? Because like there's the fighting game community gets a lot of shit for a lot of stuff. I think
the same community exists for Soul Calibur 2, by the way.
Yeah, Soul Calibur is another one.
There's like a lot of
old school. There's the King of Fighters. Name one, 98, 2001. You're gonna have
the Street Fighter 2 Super Arcade.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like little tight knit communities that like just keep their games alive. They don't care that it's on life support. They don't care that it's in the back of Denny's. They'll keep playing it, and they don't give a shit about it what anybody else says.
And man, you get just as high moments out of those too, because you get people that are just like have played that for so long, nothing's new. So when something is, it's like
So exactly, and that mentality is also something I really like about fighting games, is that it's even though sometimes it looks like it's segregated across multiple platforms, and you can get into anime versus 3D versus 2D versus Smash if you want to include them in the whole like FGC thing. There's all over the place.
Is Smash not FGC? I feel like, is that its own subject?
Well, I mean, I've covered this in nauseum. I personally don't think so. I've made a bunch of episodes. I talked about it on the podcast. I talked about whatever.
Forget it.
Don't worry.
I'll go back.
We'll get people triggered.
I'll watch the VODs.
Yeah, watch the VODs. And what was I saying? I forgot. So whatever, yeah, that mentality of people playing fighting games and the one-on-one aspect.
So not getting perfected. They're just like, oh, I got that little bit of damage.
So yeah, so do you understand why it's a little foreign to me as somebody who thinks of fighting games as the way I described them just now? When somebody says, "Well, at least I didn't get perfected," that's not. I don't think that's a fighting game mentality. That's
by saying that, you kind of confirm that you learned nothing.
Yeah.
You were just worried about not getting perfected. You know, you were worried about chipping his damage just a little bit, you know?
Yeah, just so it'll look good on the screen. Or it won't look as bad.
Exactly.
It won't look as bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's something that I don't...
I definitely think that the people that are affected by getting perfected, you can see it on stage, like main stage Evo and shit. Mm-hmm. You've seen the 7 golden letters on stage, you know? And those people recover very quickly from that. It's like... Sometimes those come into the next round and just go right back to, you know, they'll get 7 golden letters.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, it's the same thing with, like, tennis, right? I mean, you'll sometimes just lose sets, like, immediately. And then you come back and you have to, like, there's no, I mean, just sometimes it's the luck of the draw, right? Sometimes you can't win all of them, you know, or you can't not get perfected.
Win some, you lose some.
Exactly. So going back to 35 or whatever, when I talked about that whole thing and I referenced you, I then said that I didn't feel the way you were. Well, we were talking about some other stuff too, but your aspects of things, at least back then, that you weren't exactly a part of the FGC, but you did like fighting games. And here's the revelation. I remember I kept saying I'll go back to it.
Right.
I actually take that back because for the last, I don't know, what, like 2-3 months or so, wow, whatever, since that podcast, you know, a lot of things have transpired. Yeah. And I've seen you get way more into fighting games than the rest of like the little group that we hang out with, right?
Right.
You understand, like you follow obviously Eris, you're looking at tournaments, you're looking at news, you're way more involved than initially what I thought.
Right.
So right now I would because also you go on our Tekken, you go whatever, so like you're involved, right? You're in the thick of things.
Well, as part of Tekken itself,
and that works too. I mean, that's
I watch other stuff. Like I said, I'll watch some Street Fighter because I understand like the skill involved. It's just I don't get. It's like when you watch like somebody do like taunt jet upper, you don't understand how hard that is until you understand how hard it is. You know.
I mean, and here's the thing: you're open to a lot of things too. I mean, I've shown you Persona before. We played Melty Blood. You played Street Fighter V with the guy, so like, you're open to other avenues of fighting games. Even if Tekken is your, you know, first love, and your right now your most dedicated game that you go to, the fact that you're open to other things, that's FGC in my opinion.
Hey, there we go.
So
hey, progress in the podcast, right?
Hey, progress in the podcast.
I go from a buddy to a guest, from not FGC to at least a sideliner spectator of the FGC.
The way I would consider the FGC is people who are involved in fighting games. Just because you play one, or just because you don't play all of them, doesn't mean you're not FGC. You can play one and be FGC. You're Tekken FGC, but
gotcha.
you understand fighting games. You understand.
All right. That's enough of that subject. What do we got next?
The other thing that I wanted to bring up is when we were playing earlier. This is something that's very interesting to me, especially when I play with people who aren't I'm not that I'm super experienced in fighting games, but like I've been around a little longer than you or the other people that we play with have.
Right.
So the way I adjust and the way I react is a little different. I'm sure you can attest to this because I don't really get pissed. You
just say things like interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So because like it's just the way I think. Here's the thing: I used to get pissed, and because it's been like whatever, like 5-6 years now, where I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess I got to learn how to deal with that. And earlier,
I'm kind of in the mid ground there because you posted that clip where I got hit by the hook fist. From Jin, and I was sidewalking, so I thought and I was like, oh, that's bullshit, but I was like, well, it's just hook fist, so I got caught. So it was kind of a level of being salty, like, fuck, I thought I avoided it, but then just realizing, that I must not avoid it. There's no way.
So we were playing, right? We were playing a bunch of games. I was playing my Lily, I was playing my Jin, and you were playing Josie, right? And throughout the set, what I noticed from you is that you got quieter and quieter as the set went on. And this was before the two other people showed up. So from what it looked to me, is it seemed like the more we were playing, the more you were trying things, and as they didn't work, you kept almost like deleting them from your arsenal. So you deleted like strategies that you were trying, and you were kind of left in like this very defensive shell where like you weren't doing much because you were too scared of the risk. And then I
get that way sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll answer this briefly with FPS kind of.
Go ahead. Yeah, if you gotta make references to those, yeah.
So in FPS, at least the ones that I play, I usually play the high skill level ones. So I don't play COD, I don't play Battlefield, I don't play something where you can.
Oh shit!
It's like
shots fired.
Yeah.
Literally.
Well, I just don't. I don't appreciate. I used to, but I don't like being killed by a tank when I'm like a regular dude because like the fight was unfair, right? But if it's something like I use like Counter-Strike, like America's Army Proving Grounds, that's a really good one. Anything that involves like a lean, a slidey, something like that where you can like kind of like it's not just you running towards me and me running towards you, and like we can peek corners, we can do certain things. Like PUBG is a lot like that. Mm-hmm. You can peek, you can do a couple other things. You can jump out windows, climb up a building. Kind of this is the mind game, right?
Yeah.
So in games that are the same map every time and they're very small, things like AAPG. I use this a lot because it's one of the best FPSs I've played in a long time because of its use of the leaning and sliding around a corner instead of just running around like you normally would. So I say that so I can say this. In FPS, if you have like a place that you want to go, that you want to try to dominate this part of the map, that there's like this unsafe peak right here. So I have to outpeak this guy right here. So in my mind, there's players that you can't outpeak because they've either got there fast enough and they're already on you, or they're just better than you and there's no reason to fight them because you will lose. So, and it's like a 10 out of 10 kind of situation because FPS is very unforgiving. Whereas fighting games, there's all kinds of little gimmicks and stuff that you can pull out, sidewalling, etc. And I'm not saying that makes it less skillful. I'm just saying like that stuff happens. That doesn't happen in FPS. It's like I'm here, he's there. We gotta both shoot a gun,
Yeah.
And the only thing involving really anything else is connectivity, which is normally 34 ping or whatever. So when I see that kind of thing in fighting games, I see that, okay, I've tried this hop kick here after this. That doesn't work. Fucking delete it. Like, it's not going to work. There's no reason to try it again because it won't work. And I don't always play like that. Sometimes I just throw it out there just in case it didn't work the first time, etc. But I try things, and I don't always do this. You know this, but I don't always get in that mode. It's just when I'm trying to learn more about my own character versus this character, I do that. So, like, when you crouch, I do down 4-2. If you, like, blocked, if you were able to block fast enough, or, like, I didn't catch you in some kind of weird string that you were trying, I just delete it, because it's one of those situations. I know he's peaked already, and I can't win that. So I'm just going to run past it, and hopefully he doesn't shoot me, and I can get past somehow. Okay. So it's that kind of situation. You know what I mean? In my mind, that's how it works. And so I don't think that's a typical fighting game person way to think about it either. You know what I mean? I think that does stem from FPS.
Persona was a great example of this because Persona was such an easy game to get into, but very hard to get good at because you had the auto combo, movement was very free. And then Persona 4 is a very popular, back then at least, it was a very popular thing to get into because Persona 4 Golden did so well. So you got a lot of influx of new people playing it. And gotcha. I played Persona 4 Arena before actually Golden came out. So as a Persona 4 Arena player, all of a sudden you saw a bunch of influx of new people coming in and they're all trying a game. And that happened a lot when I was playing that game because it seemed like they had a game plan, and when that game plan didn't work, they deleted it and they became just like a free target to just practice on because they were so scared of doing something and getting it wrong, but taking a risk and getting it right. So they were just they were holing up and they were just, okay, let me just back myself into a corner.
You just like blew my mind. Like the way that I'm thinking about it, you just like blew my mind. Because you play Lily, and so if you don't take a risk, you're not doing anything. You know what I mean? Because Lily's so risky. So like, that's so funny. Okay, I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, and that happens a lot, and I see that a lot, and that's why you can know when who is new to fighting games and who isn't when you're playing them. Because sometimes ranks are deceiving. Like I've gone against like higher ranks than mine in Tekken, and I've seen people just shell up because not only do they not know the matchup, but they don't understand the meta. And I'm not talking about the meta of Tekken. I'm talking about the meta of fighting games. The fact that somebody seemingly has your number, it shouldn't dictate what you should do. It should dictate how you figure it out. It's a thing that I see a lot where people like get into this mode. They're so scared of pressing anything because they're afraid of getting countered. But that's the whole point, right? You're learning. So that's why when you see me say, okay, that's interesting. I just got counter hit by something I didn't think I could get counter hit by. So that's when I start labbing up. And then when I come back, I'm like, okay, I think I know how to deal with this.
Unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. So
I've mentioned this to you before, that when you beat someone in a fighting game, you beat the person. Like, that doesn't happen in Overwatch. If I get beat by like a bigger tank or something, I know that my character doesn't match up to their character, right?
Yeah.
In some cases. But in fighting games, especially Tekken, it's all very balanced. Like,
it's very personal,
really
too.
like, yeah, it's very personal and it's very balanced. Like, there's no character that's just so cheap that you can do nothing against them, right?
Yeah.
It is the player every time. So when you so the other thing being that you had been on a win streak against me about 5 or 6 games, and that doesn't help if I'm trying to learn either.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with you, obviously. You're just playing the game or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, you're defeating me as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, all these things that I've done haven't worked, and you're, like, 3-rounding me. And that's why I was like, just download Complete, man, because, like, there's, like, nothing I can do, you know?
Well,
So
yeah,
that's the other part of what happened as well. So it was me trying to test things out. They weren't working out, so I was, like, discouraged there. And then I was just getting my shit pushed in otherwise, so that's also discouraging. I think me and Pokechop actually have a lot in common. I say, like,
Okay.
I legit feel this because
explain.
when I've seen Pokechop start the day, right? He's being Pokechop. He's being rowdy. He's like fucking moving all around in his chair. He's hype. He's like whooping
Pokechop
ass.
is a very animated Josie Rizal player in Tekken. If people don't know,
Oh yeah.
people know. Don't
So
that.
yeah, exactly. If you don't know him, you gotta YouTube him. He's hilarious because he is so like animated, and I'm the same way. So when I'm winning,
Very emotional.
I'm hype, right?
Player. I did a video about him too.
So when I'm losing, and you'll see this, like Pokechop stops moving, his face gets serious, he starts fucking sweating like crazy, and like he stops moving. And then, okay, so it takes a few wins for him to like charge back up that like, but it's like all it takes is like 7 golden letters or like 1-3-0, and it's like all the momentum is gone. And so I play a lot like that too. Like, not so much with you, it usually takes about 3 or 4 losses for me to get that way, just because like, I know that we go back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
So I know that, you know, some days you just have my number and I'm like, I can't play today. You just got my number. There's nothing I can do. Like, I feel like every button I press is just, I'm dying, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, like I said, we trade days on that kind of thing. Yours are a lot less, but we still trade days. So I feel like me and Pokechop have a lot in common as play styles. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot what I called that video, but I did the E-League thing with Jimmy J. Tran and Pokechop, and it was like emotion versus whatever. I forgot what it was, but like something interesting that I noticed about Pokechop is that when he is not animated is when you saw that shit isn't going right. When he's not moving, when he's not making any facial expressions, when he's not gesturing, when he's not talking, that's when shit is not good for him mentally. Because he's rattled, so he doesn't really know.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, usually when he talks, that's when he kind of boosts up his, like,
you can see him save it. You can see him save it sometimes. Even when he goes low, you can see him, like, trying to, like, do this movement and stuff and, like, keep it up. And so that helps him. But if he ever just stops, I mean, he's, like, dead in the water, just like I said.
It's basically the end of that. That's pretty much all I had for that.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, yeah, anytime. I'm sure it won't be the last time.
Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to my homies, Nick Diaz.
Let's see. Don't be scared, homie.
Don't be scared.
Oh, shit.